Hey everyone, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be the continuation of my end of year book series where I talk about the best, worst, the most disappointing, and today the most surprising books that I have read throughout the year. I will link down below the videos as they go up, but this is the first one and I'm very excited to talk about these because these are books that I went into them with low expectations, or I thought maybe they were overhyped, or I had no idea what they were about, and they surprised me. Let's start with If We Were Villains, because I was not prepared for this. I read this recently and I had heard this was like dark academia, kind of similar to Secret History by Donna Tartt, which I did overall like, but I thought that that one, there was just too much hype, so I went into it with high expectations and was kind of meh about it. This one though, it was the opposite. I went into it feeling like I probably will not love this, but let's try it. You're following a group of students. They're basically in school at playing Shakespeare plays, which you will probably like this book better if you have read or seen any of them, which I haven't. So I wasn't familiar with any of the quotes that happened throughout the book, but I did really love it as an audiobook. So would recommend audiobook form if that's something that you enjoy, because I thought it was just really nice to hear characters playing their roles. And it's still like a murder mystery. Something happens to one of them and you don't know, who did it kind of thing. But this ended up working a lot better for me than Secret History if you want to continue comparing them. But yes, overall, really enjoyed it. If you are looking for a pretty cozy murder mystery, it's not super action driven, and you like dark academia and maybe Shakespeare, I would highly recommend If We Were Villains. Definitely something that I enjoyed a lot more than I thought I would. The Push, which is a new release, was published this year in 2021. It's a thriller. Basically, a mother has a daughter, which seems to be the case often with that trope, and she doesn't know if she's losing it or if there's something wrong with her daughter, maybe like supernatural or like mental illness. We don't know. And I feel like in this one, compared to all the other ones that I have read, I like that they played with the maybe intergenerational trauma happening, and I like the flashback of basically the woman in her family, and I like the ending a little bit better than the other ones that I have read. Don't want to spoil it, but I felt like it was a little bit more satisfying. And a lot of horrible stuff happens in here. Like, a lot. This book actually made it to my video about books that made me not want to have children, so I will link that down below if you are interested. But definitely a very intense book. Definitely look up some trigger warnings probably if you are a mother. But I truly enjoyed it a lot more than I expected because, like I said, I have read a couple. I'll put some on the screen. And I was really disappointed every time, but this one, it worked. Jade City by Fonda. This is an adult fantasy series. I have read the first book. I have book 2 on my shelf. I'm looking forward to reading it. Book 3 just came out, so you can binge read the whole trilogy. I wasn't sure I was going to love this because I had heard it was like a little bit like The Godfather, and like anything that is like gang or like mafia isn't really my jam. But this one, there's also kung fu and magic, so the magic sold me basically. You have 2 different family clans that are trying to control a city, and they are all powerful magicians. And it's a very complex magic system, but in a good way. However, the first half, I wasn't sure where it was going and if I was going to enjoy it until I realized that the best part in this book is the characters. They're fantastic, and once you get really attached to the family, you just need to know what's going to happen. By the end, I was completely sold, and I need to continue to know what's going to happen because I've been dying to know. And also, the author is not afraid to hurt your feelings, which, thanks for that. Would highly recommend this series in general. But yes, there's also like a little bit of a magical school. Hopefully we will get more in the rest of the series, but you get a few sneak peeks in book 1 and I definitely enjoyed it. Can't wait to continue. Black Sun. It's one of the few books that I went into knowing absolutely nothing. This was part of my Goodreads reading challenge. Basically, it was part of the 20 nominees in the fantasy section. And with that cover, I kept thinking this was going to be a sci-fi, which it's not. Let me just tell you what the first chapter is about, because it's not a spoiler and gives you a little bit of an idea. It's way more intense than the rest of the book, but still. You have this teenage boy that goes through a ceremony with his mother. She basically locks them up in his bedroom and drugs him, carves a design on his back, blinds him, and then she kills herself by throwing herself down the balcony. So that's the first chapter. I don't think the rest of the story is as intense, but it still gives you a little bit of an idea. There's also a bunch of people that, I was going to say drive. They fly on the back of giant sparrows, which, yes, I guess. Frankly, it's one of the weirdest books that I have read this year, but like a good weird. And I'm looking forward to book 2 that's coming out next year. I need to know, where is this going to go? Because a lot of potential in here. At the complete side of the spectrum, you have Still Alice, which This was a tough read. I actually ended up picking this up just because of a challenge. I was basically doing a 1 week, 1 shelf that I do. So put all my shelves numbers in a jar, pick one, and I have to read books from that shelf that week. And this was like a random shelf, and I wasn't really going to pick this up pretty much ever. And I read it, watched the movie, and man, I was not prepared for this. This is about Alzheimer, and the main character is a teacher in university, and she's very smart, and then she slowly realizes that she has Alzheimer, and then basically from her point of view and her family trying to deal with it. The book was self-published, and the author, I believe, has a PhD in neuroscience, which she does from Harvard. So she's not a writer, so I do feel like the writing was a little bit dry, and it probably would have benefited from an editor. But I do still think it's worth the read, and I feel like it did some things better than the movie, and the movie also did some parts I feel like was more emotional than the book. Actually, I filmed it. I filmed my reaction because I read the book, then watched the movie right after, and I cried like 7 times. And like, I'm not a big crier, but like with that topic, I mean, my poor heart. So if you're in the mood to cry, I definitely would recommend this book or the movie for sure. It will do it. Ooh, the Sunken Motel, which that's a perfect example of me giving a second chance to an author and be pleasantly surprised. I had read The Unbroken Girls by her, and she tends to have 2 timelines in her books, and both of them having like a cold case kind of thing, solving a murder mystery. And the first one didn't work for me. And this one, I really enjoyed it. You're following this young girl who goes back to work in the same motel where her aunt disappeared years ago. And she realizes that there were a few murders in the same city, and she's trying to piece things together, and the motel is haunted, which I love the idea of like haunted places in books, but I feel like I'm always disappointed. But this one was really fun to read, and I was actually really happy with the ending also, which I tend to be picky with like murder mystery or thrillers with their endings, and this one was great, and it's just a fun one to read. I know it's a serious topic, but it was still pleasant to go through, and I'm totally sold now on the author. I'm looking forward to her newest book released next year. So if you are looking for a new murder mystery, I would check that one out. Similarly, I also really enjoyed The Night Swim, which in this one, the main character has a podcast. So if you are someone that enjoys audiobooks, it's not a bad way to go through that one because you get some sections that are like the podcast, so it's fun to listen to. And she goes to a small town to do live updates on a case, basically sexual assault in a small town. And then at the same time, she's trying to solve an older murder in the same town. There's some back and forth, and it was just fun to listen to. I feel like I've been disappointed with so many mystery and thrillers in the last couple of years, and this one was great. So would recommend it if you're looking for a new one. Let's talk about The Kite Runner. Oh my gosh. I was not prepared for this book. If I'm being fully honest, I had seen that book everywhere. I tend to buy most of my books used, and his books, Khaled, his books are everywhere, so I kind of resented that, and I felt like they were the kind of books that just make you cry for the sake of making you cry, and I feel like these kind of books tend to make me feel like emotionally manipulated, which, yes, that's kind of the point, but like they don't work for me because I feel manipulated instead of enjoying them. So it took me forever to pick it up, and I should have done that way earlier because I really, really enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong, I feel resentful towards the author because of what he did to my heart. Amir, the main character, I have never wanted to punch a main character that badly. He's definitely going through a lot of emotions, guilt, and more guilt. Also some grief. But you're following main character who grew up in Afghanistan, and like you learn more about his childhood and his friend slash the kid of someone that worked for the family, Hassan, who is my sweet baby angel. And then you see him moving to the US and, you know, trying to build a life there. So you have these 2 timelines and eventually they converge. I really struggled to read this book because of how a lot of horrible stuff happens. I don't want to mention anything because it's very character driven, so the least you know, the better. But it was a very beautiful book, and I completely understood why everyone loved the author. I feel like his work is very quotable. And once again, the main character having to, like, feeling empathy towards him while wanting to him was something else. If you still haven't picked it up, which I feel like everyone has at this point, but if you are like me and out of pure pettiness you never picked it up, do it. I'm still traumatized by that one. One last murder mystery, Still Life. I kind of hesitated about including it in here because part of it I really, really love and part of it I was kind of about it. But it's the first book in a series and I've been told that you could probably skip like the first 2 or 3 before it actually gets good. But I'm stubborn and I wanted to read it from the beginning. Also, the author wrote about everything happens in a small town in Quebec, and I'm from Quebec, so obviously some French-Canadian representation there. The series actually called Inspecteur Armand Gamache, which, yes. So there are a few like French words or French expressions in there that it's always fun to read about. But it felt very, very cozy, and the characters from the village were super likable, and I almost didn't care about what was going on with the murder mystery, even though it happens to one person in the village, because it felt so cozy. So for that reason, I needed to include it in here because it's like a 16 book series or something ridiculous like that. And I haven't enjoyed a long, like, police officer story in forever. Like, I grew up reading a bunch and I felt like it was completely out of my system. Like, I didn't want to read another one ever. But this one was really, I was pleasantly surprised. Hence its appearance in this video, and I'm looking forward to continuing the series and I hope I will enjoy it as much as everyone else. But very, very cozy feel, really enjoying the characters from the small village. Last but not least, I wanted to give a shout out to this one, Cemetery Boys, because I don't really read YA anymore, and for some reason I just decided to pick that one up as an audiobook because people were saying that it was funny, and it was a fun book, and I feel like if you are someone that really enjoys YA books, you will love this one. You follow a main character who is a trans boy, and he's trying to find his place in his family, in the community, and he's trying to become a brujo. Basically, boys and girls in their community have different magical powers, and he wants to be seen as a boy. And one day he is with his cousin and they tried to call a ghost, but they accidentally called the wrong one and things kind of just unravel from there. It is very heavy on the romance, but I didn't feel like it was too sickly sweet, and I tend to be pretty difficult with romance, so I think that if you don't mind it, you will probably enjoy it even more than I did. I think the only thing I didn't love, without spoiling it, would be like towards the end, you know, the mystery section. I feel like I didn't even need it. I feel like it could have kept it almost like more contemporary than everything else, and I would have enjoyed it just as much. But yes, definitely worth the hype if you're someone that was looking for another like urban fantasy. Even I found it cute, you know? I think that's it. A pretty decent amount of books that ended up being surprisingly good, or the most surprising to me this year. Let me in the comment section which books were the most surprising books that you have read throughout the year, and if you have an opinion about the ones that I have read, positive or negative, feel free to leave that in the comment section. Thumbs up, subscribe because you don't want to miss the rest of the series, and I will be putting more videos on the screen that I recommend you check out, and I will see you in an upcoming video very soon. Bye.
Only you're the reason why I can feel those butterflies.